Now MG Motor seems quite keen on bringing the EHS SUV and the MG4 hatchback to India, but it doesn't stop there. The company has showed us quite a few interesting models across its lineup, starting with some interesting cars like this eMG6 sedan. So let's go around in this video to see what are these other cars that MG plans or is at least considering bringing to India. Now one of these cars is the eMG6. It was also shown at the last Auto Expo, the 2020 edition. But as you can see here, it's now in its facelifted guise with these glass black bits. It looks quite a bit more sportier now, especially with this really protruding splitter here. And now we'll quickly take you through the specs because there is quite a bit to see in terms of the specs of this car. So as you can see, it's got a 1.5 litre turbocharged hybrid petrol, an 11.1 kilowatt battery pack, 70 kilometers of EV range, and the power output, that's 305 PS and 480 Newton meters. So it is not a slow car by any stretch, and especially considering that this is the XPower version. Now we can't open this, but as you can see, it's quite a bit like a sports sedan. You see a lot of components are shared with the MG Aster in terms of the steering and so on, but it's got that very typical sporty sedan sort of demeanor with these quite body hugging seats, that white central tunnel, and that dash design, you know, with the gloss black elements, the suede elements, and these contrasting green stitchings. Now there's quite a bit of space here too. Now there's a lot of reflection, so I can't properly show you, but there's a lot of space here too. And another neat touch is this really sharp fastback body style. We really like it. It looks great. So yeah. And of course we think this is an accessory, this massive carbon spoiler, but most of these elements should make it to the eMG6 if MG does decide to bring this car to India. Now the next quite striking offering that MG is at least planning on bringing to India is this Mifa 9 MPV. Here's a better look at it, which MG says is one of the world's first fully electric large full-size MPVs. And yeah, it does look genuinely imposing. Almost it's got that Alphard-like quality to it in terms of the boxy sort of demeanor to it and these really over-the-top styling elements, especially in the front with this full-width light bar and a small headlamp cluster and the same quite blanked out front. Now to take you through the specs of this thing, it's got a 90 kilowatt hour battery pack, so it's quite large, and it will do up to 440 kilometers WLTP range. Here's a quick look at the inside. We can't take you inside, but you can see a full width screen. Those typically open center consoles that we've come to like in EVs. The quality looks really top notch, especially all the materials and textures. Now we can't open it, so we can't go any further, but as you can see, it's really quite well spec'd inside. Now coming back to the specs, it'll charge at up to 11 kilowatts of DC current. Now it'll charge at up to 11 kilowatts of AC current, and with DC power it can charge from 20 to 80% in just 30 minutes. Now in terms of power outputs, it will do 180 kilowatt hour and 350 Newton meters, and the top speed is 180 kilometers an hour. As you can see, that quite exaggerated design styling carries over in the rear also. Of course, there are 3 rows considering how big an MPV this is. So yeah, this is a quick look at the Mifa 9. Now what do you think? Do you think you should bring this to India as well? Let us know. Now this is another car which would be quite interesting if MG did decide to bring this to India. This is the MG5 electric estate. Now estates by themselves haven't been very well favored in India, but an electric estate, that sort of changes the game quite a bit. So maybe this might fare differently, we don't know. And to start with, it looks quite nice, as do most of these concepts or these new MG products that we're seeing here today at the Expo. And yeah, so you have these quite sharp flowing lines which seem to define this new MG styling element. Now again, we can't show you what's it like on the inside of the MG5, but yeah, this is the closest we can get. As you can see, there's a large wide touchscreen over 10 inches in size. You have those toggle switches and a rotary dial, similar to what you get in the ZS EV, but of course more advanced, considering this is the latest generation of EVs from MG. But yeah, you get a very similar sort of sense of finishing and quality on the inside that you do with the ZS EV. And so yeah, it's nice to look at. It looks contemporary. There's some ambient lighting too, as you can see. So the interior seem like most MG products, so that's not surprising. Now to take you through some of the specs of this car. So this is the spec. You get 61.1 kilowatt hour of battery capacity. The range is 525 kilometers. 156 PS, 280 Newton meters of torque. So yeah, about as much as you would expect probably a petrol or a diesel equivalent car of a similar size to be. So the MG5 is another prospective offering that MG is looking at for India. Now another quite interesting model that MG is considering for India is this eRX5 SUV. Now to give you some perspective, it's about the size of a Tucson. As you can see, it's still got that Roway badge on it. It's not exactly Morris garages. But it must be said that the way it looks is really quite striking. I mean, this full face, quite angular, almost organic grille really does give it that presence that you would sort of want in an SUV. Same with these really sharp headlamps. These vertical sort of fog lamps, they work really well, as is this nice sort of baby blue color. It looks really nice, to be honest. Now along the sides you have these quite large 20-inch wheels. Again, this nice, quite crisp design element. The now quite common flush door handles. Now again, we can't show you what's it like on the inside, but here's a quick look at it. It's really quite well made again, or at least gives you that nice perception of quality with these full width screens, that quite minimalistic steering wheel. Same with the center console with a crystal shifter and those quite limited number of buttons, and this tan sort of upholstery in the way it sort of merges into the cabin, again merges into the center console, is again quite smart to look at. Same with the rear seat. Again, we can't show you a lot, but it seems like there's a good amount of space here too. Now this is a PHEV, but before we tell you the specs, here's a look at the rear. Again, you get a very sharp design element for the tail lamps, and they're the full width kind, and there's quite a nice sort of step to the boot, if you can see, almost like a coupe-ish, almost like a coupe SUV, so that really does look quite nice. Now to get you to the specs, it's again got a 1.5 litre turbocharged petrol engine paired with a 16.6 kilowatt hour hybrid battery. So it will give you about 70 kilometers of electric only range. It can charge up to 7 kilowatt, which is quite nice for a hybrid. Power output is 245 PS, and you have a 570 Newton meters of torque. Again, quite a healthy figure. So what do you think about the eRX5? Would you pick it over, say, something like a Tucson? Considering it does have quite a long list of features too. You get a 14.3-inch touchscreen with all the usual connected car tech that MG is now quite well known for. Bose audio, a lot of driver assistant features, and 6 airbags with ISOFIX seats. So yeah, this is the eRX5. Now this is another quite interesting model that MG is showing us here. That's the Marvel R, and this is essentially the updated version of the Marvel X that we saw in the last Auto Expo. So it's got the new design language. It's a bit more European, considering this is largely aimed at the European market, which is why you have that MG logo. So you have these very intricate, again, C-shaped LED light signatures, a full width light bar, that quite deep set headlamp in an angular arrangement. Similarly, angular and quite sharp looking bumper element. Now, to give you further details, let's start with the range. Now, this will do over 400 kilometers in a full charge from its 70 kilowatt hour battery pack. It will charge via an 11 kilowatt hour AC charger, while it can also DC fast charge and replenish 60% of its battery in 30 minutes. It's also got that vehicle to load function that the Ioniq 5 has, so which is a great thing to have. Now, in terms of power outputs, it's quite healthy. It's a fast SUV, so it will do 288 PS and 665 Newton meter with a 0 to 100 time of just 4.9 seconds and a quite high 200 kilometer per hour top speed. So yeah, it's not a slouch by any stretch. It's a pretty fast electric SUV. Now, to get back to the design, again, full width lighting element, which is now quite common. Now, you've seen this design element in MGs before, and that's sort of been evolved, become a bit more sophisticated here, as you can see with these deep set bumpers too again. Now, we'll quickly try and see if we can get you a look on the inside, which we can't sadly because it's locked, but as you can see here, there's this huge Tesla or maybe Ford like touch screen in the middle, which dominates the dash. A 19.4 inch touchscreen and a 12.3 inch digital instrument cluster. But again, as you can see, it's recognizably an MG in terms of its interior finishes. Maybe so. Oh, the car is open, so we can quickly show you what's it like on the inside. So yeah, a very modern looking dash. Here's a look at the steering wheel, that 12.3 inch screen. Now, there aren't too many buttons here. You have a cup holder here. This is the gear selector, quite an odd placement for it, but we can understand how this works. Yeah, this is how the screen works. Now, it's again quite similar to, say, the screen you would find in a ZS EV, but of course, significantly enhanced. Now, here's another quick look at the seating. It's an EV, so you have this deep central cubby, which is quite useful. So yeah, this is the MG Marvel R.